VCM of Bhinder CP Study Circle. Hope you people are doing well and are in good health. So our today's topic is SME finance, role of CA in arranging finance for SMEs and preparation of dynamic and multi-purpose project report. Friends, due to the delayed flight, CASB Asawa sir is not able to join our today's session, and we have a more superb learned speaker, CABL Maheshwari sir, who will guide us today. I request Nikunj bhai to welcome our speaker for today's session. Nikunj bhai, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ritu madam. Good morning to all the members. We meet again after yesterday's super duper hits VCM. And I'm pretty much excited for today's VCM also because we have a very prominent personality in the field of corporate finance, SME finance, Shri BL Maheshwari ji with us. And we are happy to announce, we just came to know that it is his first session in Bhinder CP Study Circle. We are really excited. And as usual, I'm expecting a lot of takeaways for us. Finance as a field in this region, this Bhinder Mira region, we are more inclined, our SME CAs are more inclined towards the normal conventional practice. And finance is a sector that needs to be tapped at a more aggressive level. We CAs are partners in nation building, and definitely this session is going to help us achieve that objective more efficiently. Thank you so much. We welcome you, sir, once again.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to have a wonderful session with you. Over to you, Ritu madam. Madam, you need to unmute. Just a second. Madam, you need to unmute. Yes.
Thank you, Nikunj bhai. As a gesture of respect, we would like to formally introduce our today's speaker. For that, I request CA Mayur Kothari, coordinator, to give formal introduction of our speaker, sir. Mayur, over to you.
Thank you, Ritu madam. Good morning, all. Good morning, sir. Today I will.
Lot of bed.
Yeah.
You can turn
Hello?
off one device. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Mayur, please go ahead.
Sorry
Yes,
to interrupt you. There is whenever I think he is admitting all the participants, there is a bell noise.
Okay, sir.
Can he take
Akash,
care?
we can take care of that.
It will continue for next 10, 15, 20 minutes, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just if we can fix it, it is good.
Yes. Akash, you can try just muting that voice whenever some member joins. Yes, Mayur, please continue, Mayur.
Will do, Nikunj. Will.
Okay, Akash. Mayur, please go ahead.
Good morning, one and all present over here. Now I can continue. Okay. Chalo. Once again, good morning, everyone. Now I will introduce today's speaker, Sir BL Maheshwari ji. He has specialized into finance services and consulting with SME corporate client in the name of his company, Euro Corporate Service Private Limited. He is serviced since 1989. He has been core member and past convener of JBE Study Circle in 2011 and 12. He has been member of a committee on banking and finance. He is a regular speaker in WRC and various CPE Study Circle. I welcome sir over the platform of the Bhinder Study Circle once again. Over to you, Ritu madam.
Thank you, Mayur. Sir, request you to please take the charge.
Good morning to all of you.
Thanks, sir.
The voice is, I think, reasonable, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, my sincere thanks to Nikunj bhai for giving me this opportunity to be with all the members of Bhinder Study Circle and share my whatever 30 years of experience I have while dealing with the various corporates on one side and various lenders on other side of the platform. Finance is such a subject which I would always compare it with like a blood pressure in a body. neither higher blood pressure is desired nor the low blood pressure. And the same is the case with all the finance companies also, that there should be a reasonable mix of finance. Excess finance is also harmful, and shortage is always leading to the stress and finally sometimes death knell to the corporates. With this kind of importance, I think all of we are aware that there is a big role for chartered accountants for assisting our various clients in managing their financial affairs, and we'll come through with one by one in each slides how you can be helpful to your corporate clients. Typically, a leading data analyst company called Dun and Bradstreet, they have given a very bold statement that almost half of the ventures across the globe fail because of poor financial management. That gives a real utmost importance to the finance subject, and we chartered accountants are in the right position to avoid this kind of situation for any of our clients. What are the areas available for chartered accountants in the financial services sector? I have just listed out few of them. There may be some more areas where you can be helpful, but these are the very regular features where we chartered accountants, be as tax auditors or be as the statutory auditors, are handy to our clients and can help on day-to-day affairs. So the point starts with the planning and structuring of bank finance. I'll take a case study also immediately after this slide, which indicates that how we can be proactive for these kind of things. Then immediately starts with the loan application and preparation of detailed project reports. Many times you may be coming across, like typically a client will react, Nikunj bhai, I have an idea in my mind and I need to implement that project in next 3 to 6 months time. How do we go about it? Then Nikunj bhai can very well react on this with a proactive, active participation, starting with the complete planning, loan application, preparation of detailed project reports, and whatnot. We'll deal with one by one on all these subjects. Then preparation of CMA data, even for every existing clients on every year basis, there is a requirement from the regulators, from the lenders, that you need to renew your banking limits. And for that, a client is required to submit certain informations on periodical basis. And preparation of CMA data is one thing which is required by every corporate to be given periodically to the banks for the renewal of limits. Then, apart from preparation of these reports, you can be proactive further at one stage ahead, syndication of credit facilities. Not merely keeping your horizon to the extent of just preparing and giving the information at table level, but you can be proactive. If you don't know that skill, you can always engage with your fellow chartered accountant members and can be a joint assignment. And typically, these kind of facilities are very much available in Bombay, where n number of fellow friends, chartered accountants like me and other friends who are day in, day out only into financial services and can be handy. And a model can be worked out how to proceed in such situations. Then assistance in credit rating. Again, credit rating is an important subject. All of you may be watching from last few years that how important role is for the credit rating agencies in financial system. And small SMEs always need some kind of hand-holding support for credit rating and getting the desired credit rating. That is more important. Getting credit rating is not a task which one cannot, but very important is that you need to assist the client for getting the credit rating. Then assistance in submission of recurring documents. We'll deal with later slides that apart from project reports and CMA data, a client is required to submit to his bank on regular basis, periodically certain informations and how we can be handy. Like typically, Nikunj Bhai mentioned that many of you are more on the traditional practice side. You are assisting your clients for regularly filing your TDS returns, filing your annual returns, filing your company's MCA returns, filing your GST returns. The same way, in the banking parlance also, there are certain forms which we need to submit on monthly, quarterly, half yearly, and annual basis. And there is a important role which chartered accountants can play into that. Apart from these proactive role, there may be a situation where because of external factors, a client or an industry might have not done well, and you need to do some kind of restructuring, some kind of stress assets funding. Unconventional source of need is required in such situation. And again, a trusted person like chartered accountant who is always available to his client on very immediate basis can be a source of getting him these kind of fundings. With these opening ideas, I'll start with my formal presentation. My request to all of you is that be ready for giving me as many number of queries and questions, will be more helpful to each other, and thought process will come out with some takeaway for me as well as for all of you participants. So please feel free. You can raise the hands, or maybe your coordinators, whatever way they decide that end of the session, I would like to have at least 30-minute session for active participation from all of you, and we can share each other's experience on practical basis.
Yes, sir. Members, you may please raise your hands. We shall unmute you
Yeah,
so you can discuss your queries with sir.
yeah, very well. So just starting with one small case study, typically since we are not available in a kind of atmosphere where we can interact more this way, but still nevertheless, technology has helped us to be more interactive even on virtual platforms. So maybe I will not deal in more detail about what kind of this case study I'm referring, but I'm trying to give you a synopsis. A case of a chemical company with very good product, very good exports, very good management. There is a good demand for the product. There is a reasonable good credential in market, having standing for more than 40 years, and not to undermine, but it is being audited by one of the top 10 firms in India. Still, there was a situation when I entered into before 5 years. This company was rated for BB minus. BB minus means it is not an investment grade rating which will be preferred by any lender. The minimum investment grade rating required is BBB minus. So that shows you are 3 notch below the minimum desired level. And there was nothing wrong fundamentally into the business or balance sheet. Only some small wrong planning on financial side from the CFO or from the management has put this company into this kind of, I would say it's not that they were in problem or something, but kind of company which eligible for was not being given. So what happened? They have gone for an expansion of 15-20 crore, and they have taken loan for a short tenure of 3 years, and that too the small amount. And a fundamental golden rule of financing, which all of we know, may be knowing, that typically for all long-term sources, there should be, for all long-term needs, there should be long-term funds. If you apparently read this balance sheet on the screen, then when you have a fixed assets and investments of 72 crore, your long-term sources should have been much more than the 72 crore, which as per this balance sheet live case, it was at 56 crore. The resultant direct impact is that your current ratio is very bad, your acid test ratio is very bad, though that equity is very favorable because you are not borrowed on long term. But he was, in this case, the client was more relying on market credits because it was having more than 40 years standing. The suppliers were happy to extend him credit of 90 days, 120 days and all, because they were sure that money will come. But no, in financial parlance, in banking parlance, it was not a good case. So what we did it, we have arranged takeover of the earlier loan with a different bank with larger amount and with longer maturities, with the smallest simple task, and of course with the rate of interest reduction, the company could achieve in the very second year the minimum desired credit rating of BBB minus. This is significant, though it was not impacting the operations of the company, but from all practical purpose, it is significant when you reduce your borrowing cost by 1 to 2%, when your balance sheet is red, that yes, you are an investment grade client, and all kind of benefits do accrue to you when such situation comes. So here my submission is that when you fellow members go for the audit or for any other assignments, to give a different out of box thinking also, that whether there is any other opportunity for you to assist the client and to create a professional opportunity for you or at least for your fellow friends. And this is what was required in that situation on that day. And one of the internal auditor of this company has robbed into me in this case that can we help in this matter. And it is the story now that yes, company today is the most sought after borrower of the banks, and the rate of interest is less than 8%. Subsequent figures I have not captured knowingly, but this is what is the creative critical role you people can actively take. So just merely focusing on your statutory compliances and statutory audits, if you can look into what kind of borrowing arrangements are going on, what kind of rate of interest is there today to the client, whether can we improve, if there is any scope, whether such type of mismatch of long-term, short-term funds are there. With these kind of small signals, you can pick up a good opportunity for you and in turn definitely benefiting to the clients also. With this case study, now we'll go formally how you can and we can be beneficial to the clients and how you can start your practice into this area also. So important point starts with that if Nikunj Bhai has been asked by his client that he is looking for setting up a 50 crore new project, what do we do? So the immediate reaction can be that yes, you should look for a right source of funding. Though easy said than done. What do you need to do? There are many criterias, few of them I have listed here, which determine that what kind of right source should be there, what size of amount you are looking for. Typically depends on the amount, again your source of the lending will be decided, what cost of funds you are aiming for. Here one interesting case of recent past I can quote you from the newspapers itself. A classic case of ILFS debacle. Such a very big NBFC with AAA rating failed miserably just overnight, only because of, possibly I feel so, that the cost of funds have been made as an important criteria in the top management's mind. It's not that experts were not there. ILFS being a giant, they were having all best of the brains working with them, be it chartered accountants or be MBAs. But just with a small greed factor of reducing your borrowing cost, they have been resorting, borrowing into commercial paper markets, CPs, and resorting for thousands of crore, taking money from CP market on a short tenure of 90 days, 180 days. And that has costed them very badly because those funds were invested by ILFS into all kind of long-term ventures. ILFS are, as appeared in the newspapers, is having more than 200 subsidiaries. So investment from the parent has flown to various subsidiaries. Subsidiaries have gone into infrastructure projects, power projects, education projects, health sector, and whatnot. So typically, when you are focusing on cost of funds should be optimal, but one should not forget the mind that your cost of funds should match with the need of the funds also. It should match with your tenure of the fund also. So it is very important that what kind of overall source you select, tenure you select. Then apart from this, there is important point that Security cover available is again determining factor. Risk profile of the borrower is again a determining factor, what kind of right source you can acquire. Here the rating plays a big role. There are lenders which will say that, no, I'm not interested to take any new client on board unless it is at least triple B minus, which is a minimum investment grade rating required. But yes, again, at the same time, a country like India with hundreds of lenders, you will get some bankers who is ready to take even lower rating also into account, provided your business model is good, provided management is good, provided your product is sellable in the market, quality is not an issue, you are giving me reasonably good security. Then another important point comes is when you are selecting a right source, what kind of prevalent economic conditions are there in the country or in the globe. If there is a situation like war kind of situation is there, then international borrowings like external commercial borrowings are ruled out. Suddenly, if there are some sanctions imposed by the powerful big economies like US or UK on small countries like India, then there may be an issue. Though ECB may be a good source, but as of today, it may not be available to you. Or you anticipate that the dollar fluctuation will be very high for next 6 months. You cannot stop your project or needs of the funds. So in such situation, again, you need to tweak your right source. So these are the overall parameters by which you can think of what kind of right source we should look for while meeting the needs of any client. Then broadly, we can divide sources of finance into short term and long term. I'll be focusing more into SME kind of clients because I believe that all of we are SME practitioners and majority of we are serving to the SME clients. So some of the options which are available to large corporates, we will not deal with them today, considering our time limitation and taking the maximum advantage of the available time. Now comes to short-term finance, what kind of options you have for SME. So typically you have working capital from banks. There are various formats of working capital we'll deal in next slide. Then there is a factoring, there are commercial paper, intercorporate deposits. At this stage, moment a client comes to you that he is looking for some funding either by way of working capital or by way of term loan, we'll deal separately to each topic. But then you need to mobilize a lot of informations. The most important starting point comes is the mobilization of information. And one need to be very careful and devote good amount of homework at this stage by giving proper attention to each of these areas while collecting necessary information about the project, about the people. So which are the important topics in today's time? Most important, vital, fundamental need is the who are the people behind this venture? Promoters, the directors, the key executive team who will be implementing the project or who are running the show. So very detailed narrative profile of each director, promoter, their education background, their qualification, their experience, their special achievements, their industry affiliations, and whatnot. In case of executives, in which of the companies he has worked in past, what were their achievements are very important to capture. That gives you a lot of input and comfort to the lenders that the team behind the venture is capable to deliver the expected results. Then comes to, after your team, is the industry scenarios. In which segment you are into and what is the present economic conditions in that context. Who are your major competitors? What is the demand supply gap? Whether it's an import substitute or whether it is export, or whether there is a likely to be larger capacity coming in pipeline and you may end up with more problems, what we have seen in the earlier many industries, and what is trend indications. So one need to do a good amount of homework at this stage. But yes, good amount of homework. Having said, it depends on what kind of proposals you are into. If you are a working capital borrower as of today and your focus is only into that when your industry is already there, You can give a small snapshot is enough. If you are looking for a new project, we'll deal later on that a whole lot of details are required. Then when you are sitting for working capital assessment, what is important is there are two components of your working capital. Is one side is of your current assets comprising of raw material inventory, WIP, and finished goods inventory. Then your debtors, and then your other miscellaneous fixed small assets, current assets. And it is funded by banks, by promoters, and by suppliers. So typically at this stage, you need to work out what kind of credit you are extending to your customers and what kind of credit you are getting from your suppliers. Accordingly, the level of your debtors and creditors will be decided, what type of industry you are into. Accordingly, your raw material levels, your finished goods levels will be required to be ascertained, and you need to work out the working capital requirements. We'll deal separately further. Then comes to the CMA data preparation. Typically, it's a projection of your financial statements. In CMA, generally we prepare last 2 years actual audited results we capture. That gives you an indication where from you are coming. Current year estimates, which are the financial year where you are working. Then you need to capture that in current year, what is your likely results. And next 2 years forward projections are required for assessment of working capital needs. Typically, in the banking parlance, we call it on day-to-day basis is the CMA data. Then comes to the SWOT analysis. I mean, each one of we know that what is SWOT, and indicating again, it is helping the lenders to assess your business, assess your people, assess your strength and weaknesses, and accordingly, the branch or the processing team will be happy to recommend your proposal to their senior sanctioning authorities. Then comes to rating. There are external rating agencies available in India, and nowadays it is must that whenever there is more than 10 crore rupees borrowings, external rating is required. And as a chartered accountant, we have an important role to explain the business, the strengths of the business, the promoters and financials to the rating agencies, and try to get best of the ratings which one can. Apart from external rating, all the banks are looking for and doing the internal rating also, and different scores are there. We'll deal later on. At this stage, you have a lot of information to be prepared, and once you prepare this information in a reasonable presentation format, then you need to work out what kind of limits I can look for. In working capital, there are various options available to you, like cash credit, bill discounting, letter of credit, bank guarantees, buyer's credit. We'll deal one by one on each of one, which one fits to which business and what quantum. And there can be a combination of more than 1, 2, 3 limits in one proposal itself. So typically, majority of cases you will find that any business which comes for working capital, first thing he will be looking for is some kind of overdraft limits, cash credit limit, or working capital demand loan. There are certain benchmarks. We'll just deal with important one. In this case, typically against your current assets, you are required to borrow your cash credit. Interest is charged on amount actually utilized at the rate which is nowadays more or less it is fixed based on the rating, that against your base rate or MCLR, what kind of spread bank will be charging. Right from 1% to 4% spread is being asked by the banks on their marginal cost lending base rate. This is where the point where you can bargain also. It is not that only rating will be an important play. You need to be having some art that what kind of best extraction you can get for your client by getting the best rates, by giving them security comfort. Apart from rating, there are different working capital products also which can again save you from the interest rates. Again, we'll talk later on that also. What kind of security margins which bankers expect in case of cash credit? On inventory, generally 25 to 30% margin the banks will be stipulating. What I mean here, the margin is that typically if you have 100 rupees inventory comprising of raw material, work in progress and finished goods, then at least banker is expecting that 25% of that should have been funded by you from the core capital, from the equity capital or from the quasi equity capital from the promoters. Book debts depends on the industry where from you are and depends on the what kind of clienteles you are serving. Book debts margin can be 25 to 40% will be the expectation of bankers. Then current assets levels are there. Suppose you say that you want to store the raw material for 6 months or 1 year because you have an expectation that whether your raw material cotton or metal or any other thing, chemicals, will be appreciating at a much more percentage than what is your interest cost. So you may think of that, yes, why not I store the cotton or chemical for next 1 year. But look, bankers have got their own norms. They don't allow you, they don't expect you to do the speculation at this stage. So there are certain benchmark prudential norms set by the RBI and by the banks from their internal experience. So generally depends on the criticality of availability of raw material, whether it is imported, domestically available, next door available. The banks will expect that you should store raw material not more than 3 months, and they will not be comfortable in funding more than that. Having said that, even certain cyclical seasonal industries like sugar, like your cotton, there may be some exception where additional raw material inventory levels can be allowed by the banks, depends on case specific. Then working capital, what kind of stock you should have depends on your process cycle. If your manufacturing process cycle is just 1 day, you cannot have more than 1 day's WIP. If process cycle is for 7 days, yes, you need to have it for the 7 days inventory. Same is the case with finished goods. What kind of finished goods inventory you should store? Generally, bankers will be comfortable if you have inventory level of 1 to 2 months. Receivables, ideal situation, yes, as minimum as possible, but yes, on practical basis, one need to look for receivable level. You need to be competitive in the market. You need to extend the credit to your customers. Then ideally between 2 to 3 months is most ideal. Beyond 90 days, generally bankers are not comfortable to allow you receivables outstanding. But yes, exceptionally, again, it can be allowed up to 4 months, which is maximum. What kind of current ratios which bankers expect at this stage? Minimum desired as such is 1.33% current ratio. How it comes and why it comes? When bankers are expecting that your current assets level need to be funded by your core equity capital, by your core long-term funds. Obviously, if you have funding of 25% from that, the current ratio will be 1.33. If it is less, then your NDWC is sufficient, not sufficient, and the current ratio will be in strain. Beyond 1.25, bankers will be never comfortable. This is bare minimum 1.25. What is your other ratios parameters which bankers look for? TOL, TNW, total outside liability to the tangible net worth. Maximum is 3 times of your net worth. One can think of total outside liability, including your market creditors. And what is desired is less than 2. What about interest cover minimum? Generally, minimum interest cover should be 2 times. What is rating expectation? That at least BB plus is very bare minimum. On exceptional basis, the desired is BBB minus, which is the lowest investment grade rating. Then internal ratings from the various banks depends on the bankers, their own scale of rating. But yes, like say SBI, they follow the rating of 1 to 10 on a scale, and minimum rating should be 4. Anything above is better. CIBIL is again a very important factor. Now, each and every case, before even you move to the bank, you should be careful that your client is having reasonable CIBIL score. His track record for past payments is reasonable. He is not having defaults for 30 days, 60 days and all, and then it will be a pain for you to get him additional funds. So CIBIL for the company and for the directors is a very important vital input in today's time. Many times your client may be asking, or I get the calls from my friend, fellow chartered accountants, that if my client is looking for a working capital of 25 crore, what kind of collateral securities you will be expecting? There are no hard and fast rules. There are no fixed criteria. Depends on many parameters, collateral security can be bargained. Here I mean collateral security is apart from primary security for working capital, which is your raw material, finished goods, and your book debts. Collateral security can be by way of your residential flats, offices, factory land and building. If you don't have the term loan, even if you have the term loan, the value of assets is more than the term loan amount, then residual charge can be created in favor of bank, which will become collateral security. By and large, any lender will expect some kind of collateral support unless you are a AA and AAA company. And what kind of collateral support? It is matter of bargain as well as matter of overall scoring and understanding of the client's risk profile. But yes, by experience, I can say from a token 5-10% collateral to 75% collateral, different lenders expect from the different clients to give them comfort for having a new relationship. When we have dealt that there are many annual, monthly and quarterly reports to be submitted by the clients to the banks. These are some of the reports which we need to submit to the banks. On annual basis, we need to give you CMA data and annual reports. On monthly basis, stock and book debt statements need to be given. On quarterly basis, production and performance data should be given. And on semi-annually basis, budget and performance data should be given. There is a role for all of you that you can always assist your client and you can charge a separate fee for this kind of services to be given. Many times I get just a call from a fellow friend chartered accountants that Mr. Maheshwari, can you help my ex-client for preparation of CMA data? So this is the way in which he is right. If he is not having energy and available time, he's fully preoccupied with his own assignments, then yes, you can outsource it with any of your other friends who are doing it. And you can always share the revenue among your fellow friends. But at least the client is not going to a strange other chartered accountants or other professionals whereby you will not get anything. So my recommendation here is that, yes, you can be proactive with your all clients and look for additional opportunities for all of you for giving him comfort and delivering all these informations to the banks on day-to-day basis. Then there is an inspection and audit stipulation by all the clients, by all the lenders, that at least once in a year, we will be visiting it to your factories, to your offices. It is mandatory for them to do that. And apart from that, they do look for stock audits, and which many of you chartered accountants must be doing it. And once in a year, at least they expect that stocks and book debts should be verified by independent chartered accountants who is not auditor of the borrower. So these are the overall, I would say, requirements for a typical working capital client and for an ongoing business, whether you are into any industry, whether you are a trader or a manufacturer. The CMA data and these kind of expectations are bare minimum. I hope till now I am reasonable in my speed and making sense for all of you. If you wish, you can raise the queries at this stage, or I can proceed with the next slide and then we take up all the queries at later stage. Nikunj bhai or Ritu madam, you can decide and tell me. Nikunj bhai? Okay, we'll go to the next presentation. Apart from cash credit, working capital, OD limits, There is a second method of funding your short-term requirements of working capital is bill discounting. It is very prevalent in the market. It's one of the very interesting source of funding for the working capital. Under this arrangement, bank takes the bill drawn by the borrower on his customer, and after deducting the discount and interest and commission, the bank pay to the borrower his sales invoice, and in turn bank will present to his customer, to the borrower's customer I mean, on due date for collection of the bill amount. If bill is delayed on due date, then borrower or his customer has to pay the overdue interest on that. And sometime if the customer is finally not paying, then bank will be looking for payment from the borrower. All the bills such discounting can be backed by LCs, or it can be a clean bill. We'll deal later on about the LC. Liability in case of dishonor of the bill shifts depends on the recourse terms. Your bill is drawn with recourse or without recourse. Accordingly, in case of default, the liability will be shifted to drawer or drawee. By this process of bill discounting, you can mobilize your cash immediately on sale, but provided you have good quality customers, so that bank is happy to give you bill discounting on that. The third method of working capital funding is the letter of credit. Typically, all of we know that when we need to buy a raw material from any of our source, the raw material supplier will be expecting an immediate payment from us, and more so when he is dealing first time or with a small parties. He is not sure whether on due date you will be paying or not. So a letter of credit gives the comfort to each other, to the buyer and seller, that on due date my money is safe. And it is very much prevalent and a very, very important source of funding as a working capital needs. By process of opening the letter of credit, as a purchaser, you are sure that you are not parting with the money. The biggest comfort, you are not parting with the money. Suppose your supplier do not pay, send the material on time, and your money is already sitting with that. Then you are in a double whammy, when your material is also not there and your money is also at stake. So LC protects you from such type of problems, where money is to be paid only and only if the material is delivered of the right quality and in the right quantity, and then only your liability starts. Such type of letter of credits can be site LCs or usance LCs. On site LC, you need to pay immediately on submission of documents. In case of usance LCs, it can be having a tenure of 30 to 180 days. Mostly in domestic market, for local purchases, the LC will be of 90 days. For imports, it will be of up to 180 days. The LC will contain specified validity date and amount, and there can be some more conditions attached to that. What quality of material, there may be some inspection agencies before material should be dispatched. There should be an inspection, and the inspection agency's report should be attached to it. Otherwise, you are not obliged to honor your LC. The bank will not pay on due date if the LC terms are not met. How it works typically? So there is a importer, there is an exporter, and there is an issuing bank. So this way, three-way triangle relationship starts, and it is very much prevalent. I need not to deal more into that. Then another source of working capital funding comes after letter of credit is the bank guarantees. It is very prevalent in peculiar few of the industries like EPC companies, infrastructure companies, machinery manufacturers. Their specific orders are there, so you will not be making the material for your customer unless there is some advance payment. But moment the party pay you advance, he is at jittery that if after giving money also, if you are not delivering the machine or if you are not performing, then where do I stand? So in such situations, when you are getting advance, you need to provide bank guarantee. So here, instead of cash credit, you are replacing your working capital needs by way of a bank guarantee. It's a non-fund based limits, very prevalent for all engineering companies. When you get the orders for specific machines, you will be always getting 5 to 20% advance payment also, and you need to provide advance payment bank guarantees to your customers. Within the same industry, after your machine supplies, there will be a stipulation that if the machine do not perform as per the desired result, then where do I stand? So there will be some performance retention money will be a clause that 10% of the order value cost of the machine will be retained by me till the machine is being utilized and the performance results are as per the specifications. Again, a catch-22 situation in this case. After supplying the machine, if it is performing and still your party don't pay, where do you stand? So in such stipulations, there is always a negotiation and scope for the buyer and seller that, okay, you can retain 10% of the money, but I will give you bank guarantee and you need to release my payment. So indirectly, again, you are replacing your cash credit limits from to bank guarantee limits, non-fund limits. It is very prevalent in all engineering companies, in all this thing makers. When you get the orders from state PWD or from NHAI, there is always a requirement of non-fund limits instead of fund-based limits. Then many times you need to provide certain guarantees to the government departments also. Suddenly there is a demand from pollution control or from electricity or from income tax department or from earlier days wait that when there is some dispute, they raise it. And if you give the guarantee, they will not insist for the payments. All such bank guarantees generally will have a tenure of 3 to 36 months. The bankers, while issuing the bank guarantees, will expect certain cash margin. What kind of cash margin it will be? It all depends on your borrowing profile. What kind of risky customer you are. If you are new to the bank, they will expect while issuing the bank guarantee that 100% margin should be given. If you are existing customers, yes, they can issue it even at 5% cash margin. Apart from cash margin, bankers will expect some kind of collateral security also. It is a matter of negotiation, right from again 5 to 10% to 100%. So these are the broad parameters by which a bank guarantee works for any of your clients. And like we have seen earlier, considering the nature of industry, needs of the client, you need to structure type of limits while discussing with the bankers. Another important point is the buyer's credit. All of we are aware about the embargo and the serious problem posed by cases like Nirav Modi, where rampantly he has used the buyer's credit and misused it. How it worked? It is available to all the importers for purchase of their raw material, that your supplier, overseas supplier, need the money against your supplies, but you want to pay him at later stage, after 90 days, after 180 days. So one option was the letter of credit, where the overseas supplier is sure of his getting money, but he will get it only after the LC tenure. But in case of buyer's credit, there is a third lender coming in the picture, apart from the suppliers and customers, bankers, there is a separate lender who comes in the picture. We'll see in the next slide, and who gives the buyer's credit to the exporter for the importers. And it is available in foreign currency, and it is linked with LIBOR rates. And that is how it is an important source of funding. After Nirav Modi case, suddenly RBI stopped allowing this facility. Now with lot of restrictions, again, this product is available. How it works? These are the steps involved in case of buyer's credit. Customer who is importing the goods, either an LC or direct document, requests the credit arranger to grant the credit. Overseas bank branch to provide the buyer's credit offer letter. On receipt of LOU, LOC, any overseas bank to pay the supplier's bank directly. This is the instrument which was misused by defaulter like Nirav Modi, when they used to get letter of undertaking or letter of confirmation from PNB in favor of their overseas suppliers. Against that LOU, LOC, any overseas bank, it may be a overseas branch of Indian banks, or it may be a altogether foreign bank who was giving money based on the LOU given by Punjab National Bank, because those lenders were sure that on due date, bank will be paying me, PNB will be paying me. And that is what has happened, that PNB has paid it, but in turn, here the importer, Nirav Modi firms, could not retire those liabilities on time. Importer's bank will recover and remit the same to overseas bank on due date. Generally, it is for the import of your raw material for a period of 3 to 12 months. For capital goods, it can be up to 3 years. It's very prevalent. Buyer's credit for the capital goods for importing machinery for 1 to 3 years. Every 3 to 6 months, the interest on buyer's credit may get reset. The exporter gets paid on due date. The currency of imports can be different from the funding currency. You are importing a material from China. Your bill might have been in the Chinese currency, but you can fund to those Chinese exporters from dollar or euro. So the currency need not to be same. So this is how the another source of working capital funding we have finished. Now comes to the factoring. Apart from bill discounting limit, there is another interesting point of factoring and how it works. See, there are factoring agencies. There are factors in India. PNB factory is there, SBI factory is there, Canara Bank factory is there. There are some private factoring companies are there who are ready to take your receivables and fund you based on their own assessment for the each customer. It is essentially your customer creditworthiness which is important for the factors. He is not concerned with who you are, but he is concerned with to whom you are supplying it. Because on due date, money is to come from that. So even if I am a small vendor for Bajaj Auto, my balance sheet may not be very strong, but the factor is sure that on due date, as per stipulated terms, Bajaj Auto is going to pay me. So he is more than happy to extend me clean credit. Factor is a clean credit to me by discounting my bill. This is how it works, that there is a seller, there is a buyer, and a factor is available who will give you money. What are the advantages for this factoring? Apart from earlier methods which we have seen in cash credit and all, here it is a clean credit. You need not to provide any security. It's the quickest. Moment you supply and get the acknowledgement of delivery challan that you have supplied, you give the invoice and delivery challan. If the factor is comfortable taking the risk on that customer, he will be happy to give you money instantly, at least 80 to 90% of the bill amount. So such small SMEs can focus on to their core areas because he need not to worry for recovery of his debtors. It's a cost effective because it is available at a very attractive rates. It gives an opportunity also that you can do more business. If you don't have these kind of limits, then you are stuck with certain quantum of sales only. But if you have such limits, then the working capital cycle further rolls and you can do more business. And in the process, you can create a credit history also. But yes, there is a limitation that it is not available to small customers. So if your SME client is supplying material to the another SME small client, it may not be available. In that case, all other traditional tools which we have seen, you need to resort, you need to look for them. And it may harm the long-term customer relationship, because sometime if your customer is good but he is sensitive, because once there is a factor involved, he cannot afford to delay even for a day, because his credential is at stake. But if it is a one-to-one relationship, he can always request you for delay of your payments for 1, 2, 3 days. So this is how sometimes it harms relationship also. So by this process, almost we have finished all kind of short-term funding arrangements available in the market, which are relevant to the SME clients. Now we'll turn to the second leg of our today's talk about the long-term finance. What are the generally available products into long-term finance? Term loans are there, LAP and LRD is there, lease and hire purchase is there, debentures are there, venture capital, private equity, ECBs, and of course IPO or FPOs can be another source of SME funding. We'll deal one by one onto that. Now at this stage, again a typical situation which I am sure many of you may be watching also, maybe noticing also, and might have come to you, that once a client decide to go for, like say today he is a trader in chemical and he wants to set up a factory for the manufacturing, or today he is making chemical, tomorrow he wants to go into textile, whether he wants to go into further other products, and then he involve you as a trusted right hand person for you, that I need to set up a project of 100 crore. How can I go about it? So at this stage, again, a very critical important point is you need to involve yourself and prepare a lot of information, which I have listed out here. Like typically, what steps will be involved? We need to prepare a detailed project report. Then we take the in-principle approval on the project from any prospective lender. Lender will do its TEV study by independent consultants. It is more or less mandatory with all the nationalized banks. Private banks don't insist on it, but yes, all the nationalized banks do insist on it. Then they do their own in-house detailed appraisal about the project. We'll deal how this process flows, and then a sanction comes, and then your compliances of the sanction, and then disbursement starts. So at this stage, we need to provide a lot of other information apart from earlier mobilization of information, which we have seen in our earlier slide, that you need to create get the details of promoters, directors, management, industry, customers, SWOT analysis, rating. But apart from that, in case of term loan application, we need to do a lot more homework. And what are those areas? So starting with first thing is that you need to sit with the client and understand in detail what is his product, what kind of homework he has done, whether he has purchased the land, what size of the land parcel is required, whether the land is NA or not, the land which you have taken, whether if you are setting up a chemical factory which is polluting, whether you are allowed to set up such plant there or not. So you need to look into that. Then you need to capture at every stage what is the cost relevant to that. So the land, it's NA, then it's leveling, and then it's fit for setting up the industry. So you need to do the necessary infrastructure development, and of each component you need to ascertain the cost of such, because that is relevant for you. In the further slides we'll see how to arrive the cost of project. Then building, whether building he has done the cost estimation with his architect, whether plans are approved by the local authorities or not. what kind of infrastructure is available in the surrounding area, whether power line is available or you need to request the electricity board to draw a power line for you specially, whether water is available, what kind of water sources are required, road is there or not, or you need to create a road. If you need to create a road, then the cost has to be captured in your cost of project. Important point again is effluent treatment. If your product and processes involve effluent, then how you are going to treat that effluent, whether there is a common ETP plant available or you need to set up an in-house ETP plant to treat that effluent. So again, it is relevant to capture the cost at this stage, and each stage your cost of project will either go up or will come down. So you need to be very careful. A thorough homework is required. A absolute continuous hand holding support is required from you with the client and with his client's technical team you need to do. Then you need to understand what kind of technical know-how he is having for this project. Whether it is in-house, his team is already there who has developed it, or you need to outsource it. If it is outsourced, what kind of arrangements you are making, what kind of fee structure you need to pay and you capture into the cost of project. Very important. Then production processes. Again, once you decide the product, then its production processes, its a flow chart will be relevant. What kind of raw material you need to, whether raw material is easily available, it's a critical, it is imported or domestic available, what kind of price fluctuations prevail in the raw material. Then a detailed note on marketing. Moment you start about talking any new project, new product, the lenders need to get fully satisfied whether your product will be sold or not, whether there is a sufficient market or not, whether it's a domestic market, export market, or blending of both, or are you acting as an ancillary to a larger manufacturing company, then your market is very much assured. And what kind of manpower assessment and recruitment plan, how critical is your product and processes, whether those kind of experts team is available or not, what kind of cost structure will be there, because you need to work out the salary structure also of all these such critical manpower, and you need to figure out in your business plan projection for next 5-10 years that what will be your salary and wages bills. So, and then comes the implementation schedule. It is again very important, a very critical input today, that a promoter may come out with you that, sir, if you get me money, I'll implement this project in 12 months time. But if your third sense says that he is going too optimistic, then you please warn him. Please request him that redraw your plan. There may be some teething issues. There may be some many uncertainties. So your implementation schedule, and why I'm saying at this implementation schedule means you need to draw whether you have acquired the land, whether your building plan is approved or not, or when you are starting, when you are completing. So each stage of function, you need to draw a table that each activity will be commencing on so and so date, when you will place your orders, when you will have the technical know-how in place, how your recruitment plan will be, are you going to do any marketing tie-up with somebody or not. And in implementation schedule, we need to capture all these major activities, including your licenses applicable to it and how it likely to be achieved. The implementation schedule, most critical aspect will be your date of commercial production. COD is very important. It should be a realistic COD. If your date of commercial production, you're fixed on a very optimistic note, and tomorrow your project get delayed, from the very first day you are labeled as a restructured account, which is very, very undesired situation. I have seen in many industries, and that's why I'm giving you a note of caution that here you need to fight with your technical team, with your promoter, that you need to factor in a lot of uncertainties, contingencies, and implementation schedule should be so realistic. If you achieve more than that, any lender will be happy. But if you fail, then really from the day one, you are into problem and you are inviting unnecessary problems, because RBI allow you only one kind of or one time of restructuring of your commercial production schedule. More than one time, then you are gone. It is a NPA account. It is a problem for lender as well as for the borrower. So it is important that you need to draw a realistic time schedule. Then we need to, after gathering all these information, we need to draw what is your cost of project. Which are the major component for cost of project? Typically, each component you need to decide. Generally, when you will be submitting the project, I believe that just on the ground day, you will not be going to the lenders. By the time your client must have done a lot of homework, he must have spent some money on various heads. So we need to capture what amount of money I have spent, let us say on a cutoff date, and what I need to spend, and what is my total cost on the project. So land is there, building is there, plant and machinery is there. We need to work out with the cost estimation, with the quotations on realistic basis. Let me warn you, in nowadays, gone are the days when the role of lenders was just a development role and they were not well equipped. Today, all the bankers are supposed to go and do their own homework. Each of plant and machinery which you are giving the quotation, he may go and check with them whether this quotation is realistic or whether you have done the pump up adding on the cost and then you have gone for. If he comes to know that your client is not transparent, then definitely, however you are influencing or however nice your financials, they will not be lending you. So one has to be very careful at this stage. You need to educate your client that do reasonably good homework, take the quotations from the reliable suppliers and take the right quotations, do bargain and get the best pricing. Then apart from plant and machinery, miscellaneous fixed assets, your preliminary and pre-operative expenses, interest during construction. Again, it is very important because now you need to service the interest irrespective of you are into commercial production or not on monthly basis. So whatever interest liability you need to work out from the day of your disbursement till you achieve the commercial production and you stabilize your production. Whatever interest is there, based on the best estimation, you need to factor into cost of project itself so that at later stage, there is no cost overrun. Apart from these various headings, you need to factor into contingencies also. If there are some imported plant and machinery, you need to factor into currency fluctuations. Even if it is a domestic, but if your supplier has put a clause that it will be best or linked with the steel prices, linked with the cement and other prices, then you need to factor into those kind of contingency in your cost of project. There has to be some buffer so that at the end of the day, when you are near to the commercial production, you should not come with a situation that your money is already exhausted, your term loan disbursements are over, but still you need to spend more money. Apart from all these headings, then another important point comes is a margin money for working capital. It is also to be provided by the long-term source. So we have seen in the past that how you need to work out the margin money against your each component of current assets. At least 25% of current assets should be funded by long-term source minus your trade creditors. Whatever legitimate trade credit is available to you for purchase of raw material should be reduced. So 25% of such core current assets to be funded by way of long-term source as a part of cost of project. Then you are at peace. Your client will not be fail because of imprudent financial practices. And this will help to set a good foundation for him to grow and progress. Then comes to, once you have arrived at the cost of project, then important role comes for you is the means of finance. What kind of equity infusion should be there? What kind of quasi-equity can come from his friends and relatives? If it is an existing company, can we have some internal accruals allocated for this project? Whether it is a SPV or whether it is a same company. Whether this project is entitled for any subsidy from government. And then comes to loan from bank. In good old days, you could have thought of that even a 25% margin against your 100 crore project was good. Yes. But today, gone are the days when bankers do expect that your client's skin should be there in the game. I mean here, skin should be there in the game means he should be deeply involved by financial involvement. So ideally today, though there are no benchmarks, no written guidelines, but bankers are not ready to fund you more than 1.2, 1.5 debt equal to 1 time of equity. So in real sense, if it is 100 crore project, max you can expect 60 crore loan, 40 crore has to come from the promoters only. This is what is practically I am sharing with you, that this is what the banks are looking for. Yes, there are some exceptions to that, where you can bargain for more loan and less of this if you have more collaterals and all that. But generally, this is the kind of expectation from any lender, that at least 40% of the project cost should have been funded by equity. And with exceptions, I have shown you. Then comes to your role is, once you have decided you want to borrow against your 100 crore project 60 crore, then what kind of instruments you can think of? And there are some instruments which can talk on the term loan side for typically a normal product of a rupee loan. So long-term debt at this stage you need to tie up, and which is available from the banks and financial institutions to finance your capex. So at this stage, what we have covered is all the basics informations are there. A detailed project report has been prepared. Then comes to your formal application. So that is where the point starts with steps involved. So you have come out with all these information and you are ready with your detailed project report to be submitted to any prospective lender. Ideally, I would say that even at reaching to before this stage, if you want to save your time of your client's time, a snapshot executive summary of 4 or 5 pages can be prepared and can be talked in advance to some of 1 or 2 prospective lenders for their in principle node. At least you will come to know that whether the bank is ready or not. There may be a situation where though project is good, promoters are good, but a bank may come out with a one-liner message at a later stage that, look, my head office said that my exposure in textile industry or my exposure in cement industry or my exposure in chemical industry is more, so I cannot fund this project. Though he is not rejected it, but he cannot fund it. But in the process, if you are not experienced, you have lost 2 to 3 months of time for your client, and it will be a big cost. So as a prudent chartered accountant, you can advise your client that pending many details, a snapshot summary can be thrown to 2-3 prospective lenders and take a in principle approval. And meanwhile, you busy yourself for gathering all the information and preparing project report. Once a project report is there, generally lenders, especially nationalized banks, will ask for a techno-economic viability study by independent consultants. They have the panel of TEV consultants. Techno-economic viability study is prepared by independent consultants, that whatever information you have gathered and submitted in your detailed project report, whether they are right or not, whether they are acceptable within their norms or not, whether it is achievable or not. Many times as a borrower, we may be very optimistic, but a TEV consultant may say that, look, in the first year, you may not achieve more than 50% of your capacity. Then we need to work out, we need to modify our report and fall in line. There has to be a clear, detailed, open mind academic discussion with the TEV consultant appointed by the lender and by our technical team in your presence, and come out with a solution that, yes, what is reasonably achievable. Maybe on flip side, you may feel that, yes, you will achieve, but it may not be practical. And no harm in accepting such initial small errors. It helps you finally in keeping your project healthy and you don't end up with more problems. After TEV study done by the independent consultants, then the bank do its own detailed appraisal based on the input given by project report, based on input given by TEV consultant. They prepare their own internal detailed appraisal in their own format, and then it is put to the sanctioning authorities for final sanction. Once the final sanction is achieved, then you need to help your client for complying with the sanction terms. In today's era, with lot of NPA, there are at least 30 to 40 other terms and conditions which are attached with your sanction, and you need to comply with each and every one, and then only you can expect the disbursement of loan. So there is a continuous involvement of you. There is a continuous role for you to play, a hand-holding support for your SME client, and get him disbursement and get the project going. So by this process, and this process will be applicable in all sorts of funding, whether you talk about the term loan, whether you talk about external commercial borrowing, whether you talk about loan against property, LRD, these things. Yes, maybe the nature will vary with the proposals. If it is a project, slightly more intensity is there. Simply you are looking for another method of loan, like say loan against property. It's a similar like what you have done, but in this case intensity may be less. You need to do less of homework, less of information, because largely here the lender is relying on the underlying assets which you are giving, which is free from charge. So the bank and lender is comfortable that in case of rainy days, I can realize my recovery by sale of those properties. So here loan against property can be a method of funding, which is generally 65 to 80% of market value. Tenure can be depends on the need, 3 to 10 years. Interest rates depends on various combinations, can be from 9 to 13%. But these are all indicative terms. One can always look for lower or higher, depends on each case. Security, the charge on the property itself will be the major security. Then another method of long-term funding is lease rental discounting. This is one of the very important source of funding for the builders and developers. There are many builders who are generally not selling their commercial real estates, and just they are keep on adding to their portfolio. So what they do, they go and do the discounting of their rental cash flows for a long tenure of 10 years, 12 years. And that chunk of money which is available will be utilized towards funding his next project. It is very easy method, much less cumbersome. If you talk about construction financing, which itself is a very different subject and needs 1 to 2 hour session, but it is very difficult to crack construction financing from the banks. But in case you have a lease rental portfolio, it's very easy to mobilize the money. It can get you right from 60 to 80% of the property value. Depends on what kind of rentals you have, what kind of tenants you have, what kind of lease agreements you have, whether the lock-in period is there or not, whether the furniture is being fitted by the lessee or not. Accordingly, with various parameters, you can decide the quantum of loan you can fetch, and rate of interest also can be bargained accordingly. This is very interesting method for mobilizing long-term funds. Then lease financing, it's another interesting option. Typically, we might have seen in many cases that generally MNCs are very comfortable taking equipments, buildings on lease instead of buying it because of their own internal needs. Generally, they don't get approval so easily for the CapEx, but for OpEx, no issue. So it is one of the very prevalent method of funding, lease financing, that you need to do the CapEx. Instead of doing CapEx, you go for lease financing. There are financial lease, there are operating lease, very prevalent in heavy machines like oil rigs are there, construction equipments are there, or your aviation industry is there, where lease is the only way in which you can mobilize long-term funds. And even if you have the assets and you want to do more funding, you can sell those assets and take it on lease. In turn, you get more funding. Then hire purchase is another method, very prevalent into hardware software industry, where all the soft techies take their hardware on hire purchase. Almost all the hardware suppliers are having their own hire purchase NBFCs, or there are other NBFCs who are ready to give you hire purchase lending on certain routine compliances, that there is a equipment against that depends on the shelf life of the equipment, 3 to 5 years time, you can take it, and that end of the year terminal of your HP, you can acquire that. Vehicles are financed by the HP method. Then comes is another long-term source is the debentures. It's another instrument, very helpful in certain situations. more so when you are a rated company, when you are a reasonably big company, when you have the security. But by the process of debentures, you can create more liquidity for the company, and there can be less rate of interest applicable to you if it is rated. By and large, the debenture subscriber will expect a minimum rating of A and above. But yes, if you are A and above, your borrowing cost can come down. Debentures can be CCDs, OCDs, or NCDs. Another source of funding for SME, which is very prevalent in Indian context in today's time, is venture capital finance. Almost all startups lend with the venture capital, all of we know, and there is a good scope for fellow chartered accountants to be handy to your clients in assisting him in getting the venture capital finance. So typically here, features is that there is a equity participation, there is a participation in management, it's a long-term source. Of course, it is a high risk and it is having liquidity from the lender's perspective. What kind of stages we come across with the venture capital financing? Like early stage financing, where generally startups will raise just few lakhs of 50 lakhs, 100 lakhs kind of things. Then once you reach to a reasonable level of your development of the product or services, then you need the expansion financing. Again, at this stage also, maybe that your bankers are not handy, they may not like to fund you. So expansion financing is again given by venture capital or PE funds. The third stage is where your product and your services and your business model is more matured. Then either can be a big PE fund who will do for you acquisition funding, buyout financing. You can acquire another similar business who is your competitor with the idea of inorganic growth, and abundant money is available at the stage 3. All of we know how many number of deals every week's reported in the business dailies. What kind of processes generally do in the investment process, venture capital process? So deal origination. Typically, again, like you guys, chartered accountants who start with the incorporation of companies, and immediately the client will ask you, boss, can you help me in raising some fund also? There can be two situations. One, you will say, thank you, boss, I am not doing this. So you can look for anything. Or secondly, if you are proactive, then yes, you can say that, yes, okay, though I am not complete expert into this, but I do have my network of other fellow friends who can be helpful, and as a team, we will do it. In that situation, your role comes from here, the deal origination, understanding his business, and then making a small executive summary and reaching to some of the prospective venture capital funds. That is called a screening. An initial screening is required. And once your idea is accepted, your business plan is having reasonable practical approach, then a second stage starts with the due diligence. Any venture capital fund would like to have more clarity about the quality of promoters, about the business model to be tested on real life scene basis. So a due diligence is required immediately. You can be playing a very critical role in that stage. And once the due diligence is favorable, then comes is the deal structuring. What kind of funding can come? Whether it will be by way of equity, or whether it will be by way of preference shares, or by way of debentures, convertible, non-convertible, and what instrument should have coupon rate, what tenure it should have, what kind of premium you can expect. So this deal structuring needs a lot of expertise, but you can play a critical role because you know the client very well than a outsider. And post deal structuring also, there is a post investment activity, because once the money is there, the actual business starts. Lot more informations are required from the client to the venture partners, and that is the stage where you are again required to involve yourself, give them hand-holding support, and give the comfort to the investor also. that as a chartered accountant, you are honest to your services, you are capable of providing them required information periodically in a nice manner, then they appreciate it. And there has to be an exit plan over a period of 3, 5, 7 years that an investor who have entered into at the early stage, whether there is an exit plan for him by buying from the bigger PE funds, or you have already matured and your company has gone bigger off at reasonable size, can you go for a IPO? So at every stage, there is something for you chartered accountants to work and provide the services and get additional revenue stream apart from your traditional practice. There are advantages and disadvantages. Obviously, I mean, you get the money, but you lose the control, you lose the autonomy. You need to report every buy and now. He will be having a board seat also. He will expect that every expenses need to be approved by him. And it's a lengthy and complex process. Generally, venture capital raising exercise do take anything from 2 to 6 months time. It's a very standard. And let me tell you, even the success ratio is less. On a debt side, almost you are sure in the initial screening itself that yes, you will be able to get the loan or not. But in case of equity, you may be thinking that yes, it is sure I'll be able to get you. But yes, the venture capital partners think in a different way, and it may not be. So by this process, formally, I have finished largely used instruments for the short and long term. I'm giving you my takeaway for you, how to save the borrowing cost, tips to save the borrowing cost. I mean, given a situation that your client having a good business and he don't need any services from you, everything is going smooth and he's having his bankers who are happy, he's also happy. Many times his CFO is there, but he's also in a comfort zone that, look, yeah, I know this banker for last 15, 20 years, so I'm very happy. Why I should change it? But no. If you feel, if you sense in your process of audit and taxation that there is some scope, I'm giving you these tips whereby you can ignite your need to the client that, look, by this process, you can save your borrowing and every rupee saved is rupee earned. And what are those topics and tips? So typically, like if your client is an importer, always use buyer's credit, which we have seen in earlier. Instead of normal cash credit, which client is using it, he's getting his money, so he's happy. He don't want to do more paperwork and all. But yes, buyer's credit gives him saving in his cost. So always remind him that can you look for it. Then same way, if you are an exporter, use packing credit, PCFC and EPC. In case of even rupee packing credit, EPC, there are subsidies available from government. Interest subvention is there. I tell you, even there is a scope where typically I have a client where he don't need money, but he is an exporter. His accruals are sufficient. What do we do? Go and tell him, sir, use the export packing credit because you have a 5% interest subvention from government, which is legitimately available to each exporter. Use that money in some other sources. Even if you don't want to do anything, just go and invest into mutual fund for the government securities. Still, there is a saving of 2 to 3% for your client, and jolly well you can expect some share of that cake for you. So this is how you can be proactive while dealing with your each client. If you have if your client is having good collateral, you can always look for cash credit, asking part of the cash credit limit. See, many of clients may be enjoying his 25 crore CC limits for years, but simply converting part of that CC limit into WCDL, not doing anything within the same range of 25 crore. If you suggest to your client that why not we do part of this CC limit into WCDL, at least 1% interest saving is there. And how you do it? Suppose your 25 crore CC limit is there, which fluctuates. Sometime you are using 20 crore, sometime 18 crore, sometime 24 crore. So at least a bare minimum, which is roundly used, can be parked as a WCDL, working capital demand loan. The negative part of that is that you have committed to the bank that though it is a overdraft limit by way of cash credit, but still minimum that level of 15 crore or 20 crore you will be utilizing throughout the year. Otherwise, there will be a non-utilization penalty for commitment fees will be there. So, but then there are ways and means how to arrive that what kind of level WCDL is there, and you say 1%, 2% on that. Another interesting point, many of practical life I have seen, there are clients having good size of activities, more than 100, 200 crore, and still they are banking with small cooperative banks, small private banks. Request them to move to some big PSU banks or foreign banks. You will have better interest rates. You will have better services. It's very interesting. Without doing anything, you can get him benefits, and there is something for you also. So same way, if you are your client is supplier to big companies like Hindustan Lever, ITC, Pfizer, simply there are two options available. Your normal business term says that HUL or ITC or L&T will pay you after 30 days or 45 days. And then they come out with a scheme that do you want payment immediately? Then I'll be charging 1 to 2% discount on that. And I'll pay you immediately once the material is accepted. But instead of taking that cash discount from the HUL or ITC, suggest the client that instead of that, we go and take the bill discounting limit, factoring limit from any of the banks, which will be available at even maybe 7, 8, 9%. So a 1% or 1.5% cash discount is costing him 18 to 24%. Whereas in case of bill discounting or factoring, you may fetch him money at 8 to 9%. So there is a clear saving. Same way, if you have 100% collateral, part of the money can be utilized by way of a mortgage loan, or it can be overdraft at a much lesser rate. If you want to increase your negotiating power, always go for external rating. See, up to 10 crore, though, external rating is not must. And even in some cases, bankers are not insisting up to 25 crore also. There are some exceptions to that, okay, up to 25 crore, we'll do our internal rating and external rating is not required. But if you want to increase your negotiating power, external rating is help. So motivate the client that don't fear, do the external rating. Though bank is not insisting, but moment you have an external rating, his capital adequacy norms change. So he will pass on that benefit to you. If you are a non-rated client, the capital adequacy norms are different. If you are a rated client with investment grade, the capital adequacy and PA provisioning norms are different. So this is how you can educate your client and in turn get money. If you want better rating and to avoid the pen and interest, submit your quarterly, monthly, half-yearly statements in time. There are some other ways in which you can again do, like we have seen case of your good customers. The similar is case when you have a sufficient liquidity, you have the cash credit limits available with you, but it is not used because of your comfortable cash flow. And in turn, you are buying your raw material on credit. Educate the client that, sir, you buy it on credit is fine, but can you explore giving him money instantly and taking cash discount? And there may be a good chance that when your raw material supplier is happy to take the money immediately by agreeing for a cash discount of anything from 1 to 2%, and your CC limit may be at 8, 9%, again, there is a saving for the client. Then if you are an importer or exporter, always ask your client that he should deal with a branch which is a Forex branch. If you are dealing with a small branch which is not a Forex branch, then that branch in turn is dependent on somebody. He need to reach to his nearest other Forex branch for getting the Forex rates on daily basis for what is happening in dollar, what is happening into euro. And in the process, you lose some time, opportunity and time, as well as if you are not directly dealing with the Forex branch, you may lose negotiation of 5-10 paisa on dollar conversion also. So always request for changing the branch. Same way, if you are a large borrower, I would always recommend go for at least more than one bank. Then you have opportunity to compare your services, your pricing power increases. You can always keep both the bankers on toes that look, X bank is giving me better rates. Shall I switch to him, or you are also reducing it? So with that position, you can always get a good deal for the client and in turn for to you also. So I'll end my talk with a small message That remember, you don't get what you want, but you get what you negotiate. And as a in-house chartered accountant, you can always enable your client to negotiate on his behalf and share the cake with him. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
So now we can ask for questions from
Yes.
any members. Yeah.
Sir, I had a query.
Please.
You mentioned to park funds in mutual funds that invest in government securities. Do you have any mutual funds earmarked for this in your mind?
Yeah. All the mutual funds are having separate, schemes where their investment will go into government bonds only. All mutual funds.
Any specific you feel?
No, I should not recommend. And even if you reach to any advisor, I can recommend you some of the advisors who will come and guide you.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, each big mutual funds are having multiple schemes,
So I believe,
multiple options where they are dedicatedly investing only into the government bonds.
if these mutual funds are broadly following the same pattern of investing in government bonds, the return should also be at par. I believe not much.
Yes. A 0.25% difference may come at the most. Because sometime when RBI policy rates change for a week, the interest rates and the bond prices keep on changing. You may be reading every day in headlines in the newspapers.
Right.
Bond yield reduces or bond yield go up by 10 paisa, 20 paisa. So
Okay.
to that extent, small corrections may come, but yes, by and large, it will be same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Members, you may raise your queries. You may raise your hands. Let us know. We will unmute you.
Or any one of you can, if in chat box it is there, then one of you can read it and give it to me.
Yeah. Let me just check, sir, the chats if there is some query.
Yeah.
Yes, Nitesh ji. Nitesh ji, you have a query? Sir, we have a query from a member, Nitesh ji.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can you explain the supplier credit, sir?
Yes. So typically when a raw material supplier is extending you, or he is not willing to extend the credit to you, but you need a credit. So what you do is either you give him LC or you arrange the buyer's credit for him. Or in good old days, we used to call it purchase bill discounting, where on due date, I'll be paying and my supplier will get the payment immediately. Moment the material is reached to my factory, and if I accept it, then money should be available to my supplier. So there are 2-3 methods apart from your usual cash credit, from which you can give a check that yes, there can be a purchase bill discounting where on due date you will be paying, or there can be a supplier's credit, buyer's credit, or otherwise there is a LC. So these are the 2-3 options available for funding your raw material purchase.
Okay, sir, that answers the query. Members, any other query? So when you said about construction sector loans,
Yeah.
you said that needs around that's a one full-fledged topic in itself.
Yeah.
Sir,
I mean, typically,
is the reason that this construction sector is full of all this litigations regarding land and all, and unpredictability regarding collections? Is it the reason?
yeah, no, see, there are usual problem of what you rightly said. A, litigation about the project itself, whether the land was not having the correct title, or in between some members or some other culprits have put you into difficulty by going into the courts. A. B, biggest challenge today we are noticing and bankers are facing is the financial closure. Suppose you take a case where a builder has taken a project which needs to be spending of about 100 crore. Okay. And in good old days, what we used to happen that with 5-10 crore rupees, his seed capital, he was able to get lot of money from booking. And with that ideology, he will start functioning. So money was available as and when your work progresses at every slab, you get the money from them. But in recent past, everybody has seen is that because of inordinate delay by the developers in supplying or in delivering their projects, now construction finance, or so to say the booking during the construction is almost dried, except barring few big names like Oberoi may get or Hiranandani may get. That too, I'm telling you, it is a tough
Big
time
brand.
for them.
And that is also not really sure.
Yes, that too not sure. So even today we get regularly proposals from the client that after our warning also he said that, okay, boss, you just get me 20-30 crore, nothing else. I'll be able to. But when we ask him that, boss, how balance 70 crore will come? Just tell me. Do you have any other projects where from the cash flow will be there? If so, yes, it is okay. Otherwise, the lender will be not comfortable in giving you part finance and lending himself into the same problem that after 1 or 2 years, since you are not getting the support from the flat buyers, and as a lender, I am also not having comfortable position because of my own internal reasons. See, biggest challenge today with the bank is the 5% cap put by the RBI. The sectoral cap is there that you cannot lend more than 5% of your total lending portfolio
In
the
one
real
sector.
to the real estate sector.
Oh.
Yes. So that is a challenge. And earlier NBFCs used to give a lot of support. Now indirectly all the NBFCs have been squeezed by the RBI and by all the lenders. The on-tap facility was there with all the big NBFCs, you name it. Money was available to them from all the lenders. Now that on-tap facility is gone. So in turn, the NBFCs who were so-called very liberal in lending to the builders is not there. So there are variety reasons apart from another interesting, I would say mischief which was played by all the developers is that today he is launching a project. He gets some support also from the booking from his friends, relatives and business circle that, okay, he's known to me, so I'm giving money. And he get 20-30 crore, 40 crore loan from also banks. What he will do, moment that easy money is available to him of the bank, he will go and buy another land.
Exactly.
That is the biggest challenge in recent past bankers have faced, that there was a diversion of money from one project to second project, second to third, and all the projects are at different stages and in limbo, and he cannot deliver anything. And it's a very catch-22 situation. And once you are a defaulter tag, then nobody is there to bail you out.
Maybe this was the reason RERA has been brought into effect.
Yes, RERA is protecting to a great extent. And
But
even another interesting government initiative was really very interesting is that the Swami Fund, which has been launched by Finance Minister, a 25,000 crore scheme was announced and around 11,000 have been given already to the fund, which is monitored by SBI Venture Fund, where all the stalled projects, which otherwise holds the merit, there are certain benchmarks that what kind of stage it should be, at least 30% of the work should have been finished, at least 25% of the material should have been booked. So when the flat buyer's stake is involved, the Swami Fund is available to help you, provided otherwise your slate is clean. And even if there any existing lender is sitting and he is not supporting you because you are an NPA, still this Swami Fund money is available to you to bail out those such projects. It's a very interesting scheme.
okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Sir, we have, okay, I'll just unmute. Sir, can you throw some light in SME registered under MSME like benefits in interest savings, etc.?
See, to the best of my knowledge, simply because you are MSME registered, there is nothing like that banks will give you, except that yes, they will look for positive and they will give you priority in processing and all. But interest rate concession is not there. Absolutely not there.
So then we have a
Yeah.
query. CMA data, is it compulsory while preparing project report?
See, it is interrelated and it is one and same. CMA is terminology which is used for assessment of working capital limits, and project report is generally used when you are asking for a fresh project, fresh term loan. In case of CMA, generally we have last 2 years actual data, then current year estimates and next 2 years projection. So based on my next year's projection, the bankers will be assessing my next year's limit.
Okay.
So they can factor into what is business trend going on, what kind of debtors level you have, what kind of inventory level you have, what kind of market credits you are getting from your suppliers. And gross current assets ka 25% should have come from the NWC, net working capital, from the promoters, minus creditors, and balance amount is available to you by way of a working capital. And against creditors, yes, you can expect additional LC limits, which is a non-fund based limits. But CMA per se is not required when you already created a detailed project report for a term loan, first time assessment, because there itself, you don't have anything in past, and you factor into 7 years, 10 years projections, depends on your needs. Because if you are asking for the repayment schedule of 7 years, you need to provide the projection for 7 years. If you are asking for 10 years, then you need to provide projection for 10 years. So accordingly, all the informations are captured in financial projections in the DPR. So there is no CMA need on that day. But yes, next year onwards, CMA will be required, because that DPR becomes a history document for reference sake, and next year bank will be asking you to prepare CMA data every year, what you have achieved actually.
Okay.
So this is how they are interrelated. Both are assessment notes only, that you need to assess the financial needs of any client.
Unmesh ji, you can ask your question.
Yeah, Maheshwari sir, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, sir. Now, presently, if you see, the SMEs are a very in critical situation because
Correct.
the stock situations may be very difficult. Even the sale, if they are going to do, how much time they will take for realization.
Yeah,
In such a dicey situation,
yeah,
raising the fund, though there are so many schemes, so many nomenclatures are there for working
True.
capital financing.
True.
But in reality, bankers are also very selective in financing. How they will go ahead? That is one question. Secondly, in addition to that, in such a situation, what are the traditional norms of 30%, 25% margin requirements?
Yeah.
Don't you think the RBI should intervene and to relax it to some extent by 10% should be the contribution, and for the timing, at least for phase manner 1 to 2 years, to revive the entire SME sector?
Yeah.
What is your opinion on this point, sir?
I tell you, typically, as far as your margin requirements are concerned, it has been addressed into that 3 lakh announcement was made by the finance minister, and it was meant for SME lenders only. And bankers have been more or less, I can tell you, compelled or forced to disburse that money. I have seen many number of clients where really money has flown to the clients to the extent of their existing outstanding. It was extended. And why it was extended? Because yes, on that day in the pandemic period, if your book debts are stuck, or if your inventory could not be moved and it is perished or it is spoiled, to that extent your net working capital margin is eroded, and it is being funded by the long-term funds to be repaid over a period of 3 years based on the bank's assessment. So that window is there. But I do agree with you that yes, irrespective of many nomenclature and many windows given by the RBI and by finance ministry, at ground level there are many SMEs which are still suffering. So there is no specific answer I can tell you. Case specific we can talk, that if you have any specific case we can talk or we can discuss on that. But yes, in such situation, what comfort you need to draw to the lender, because lender is very reluctant. I fully agree with you. Why lenders have given this 3 lakh crore window? Because this 3 lakh crore additional money was guaranteed by Ministry of Finance. So if there is any NPA, the bank officer is very sure that this sword is not going to kill him. It will not have any impact on his provident fund dues. It will not have any investigation for him. So he was happy to extend that credit. Yes, to a great extent, it has helped to the many clients also, and it was handy. But yes, there are still many industries which are in a miserable position, SMEs who are suffering. So first thing, sincerely, I can tell that if that promoter is sincere to his business and he wants to survive on long-term basis, he need to shell out either by way of his own contribution, or he need to give additional collateral comfort to some lender. Suppose your banker is not ready to give. There are some NBFCs who can give you additional money against separate collateral. 5-10 crore additional money can be raised from NBFCs or from any other private lenders, or from, typically I'll not say private lender at all, some foreign banks or private banks who can give beyond your existing nationalized bank setup. If you are not disturbing their security structure, there is no objection.
Okay.
So options
Sir,
are there, but
just
options are
one
limited.
point, one point of addition.
Yeah.
See, even the government guarantee this time, the 20% scheme they are launched by the government.
Yeah.
Many bankers have taken the additional shelters in the form of while disbursing the loan, they are not so easy. What they have done, either one is the additional loan, additional insurance, additional 5 or 6 EMIs they are kept on hold with them. Such type of incidents has also been done directly, indirectly with the SMEs.
Yeah.
And SME were not in a position to bargain with them, so they have to surrender and they have to accept those terms and conditions. So that is one thing we have seen in most of the cases.
Yeah.
The bankers have done such tricks
Yeah.
while lending.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree, boss. Those are the, I mean, ground reality issues which we do face. That okay, on a cross-selling basis, they are insisting you to take insurance, or they are insisting you to take some mutual fund subscription and all, because that fellow has been given certain target in his branch.
Yeah.
So he need to look for all SMEs who are coming for this 20% help. He is jolly well insisting you कि boss थोड़ा मेरे को mutual fund में भी help कर दीजिए, थोड़ा मेरे को insurance में भी help कर दीजिए. But you need to, I mean, it's a give and take bargain. There are no standing instructions or guidelines which you can suggest to the client.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Unmesh ji.
Yes, thank you.
Members, any other query? Pretty well. I guess the queries are all done with. Thank you so much, sir.
No, my pleasure.
Wonderful session it was.
I hope it was useful for your members.
We are sure, sir.
Yeah.
There's nothing to hope. We are really sure it was really useful. Ritu madam, please, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Nikunj sir. Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful session. For formal vote of thanks, I request Kishore Mehta, our coordinator, to present formal vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Ritu. Am I audible? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. I, CA Kishore Mehta, on behalf of Binder CP Study Circle of WRC, would like to propose a vote of thanks to the speaker, Sir CA BL Maheshwari ji, for enlightening us with the role of chartered accountant in arranging SME financing and preparation of project report with case studies in the importance of short-term and long-term funds and importance of ratios and credit rating and CMA and lot more. Sir, indeed, each and every part of your topic was so relevant and apt for us to fulfill and enrich ourselves with the knowledge in arranging SME finance. I'm sure that our participants had a lot of takeaways from today's VCM. I also thank each and every participant for making this VCM a resounding success. I really thank you, sir, and all the participants. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Nikunj bhai. Thank you, Ritu madam, and all your colleagues.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, members.